Hello there. Well, today we're going to be talking about brain fog and what we can do to prevent it. Welcome to Grey. Hello there, and welcome to Grey Matters, the channel that promotes the fact that the older generation still matters and looks at issues that matter to the older generation. Now, today we're looking at brain fog. Yes, it's a real thing, and I'm sure most of us have experienced brain fog at some time. You know, that moment when the words you need are just out of reach, those times when you can't quite think clearly. Sometimes it's memory that's affected. Other times it might just be that you're thinking slower, but it can go deeper than that. It can make everyday activities difficult. It can involve confusion, fatigue, low motivation, trouble in concentrating, or maybe even feeling emotionless. Well, our friends over at restless.co.uk, and you know that I've mentioned them before, they've come up with a list of examples of why it happens and 10 things we can do to try and reduce brain fog. Let's get into it. Right, so why does brain fog occur? It can be any number of things. Lack of sleep, overwork, stress, anxiety and or depression, menopause, hormonal changes such as thyroid disorders, nutrient deficiencies such as vitamin D or B12, food intolerance or allergies, sensitivities to certain foods or food additives, poor gut health, heavy metal poisoning, which is something you don't expect to hear these days, but it still happens, and medications or cancer treatments. There are other things such as chronic health conditions such as MS, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and viral infections. Obviously, COVID-19, which has been a big one recently. So that's the list of things that can potentially go towards causing brain fog. And if any of these are present in your life and you think that you might be having difficulty remembering or concentrating, then do go and see your GP. But there are 10 ways to beat brain fog. Let's get rid of them. And let's start with number 1, and that's to get more sleep. Now, research suggests that while we sleep, the brain rids itself of toxins. Now, these can be dead blood cells, waste tissues, leftover proteins and ammonia, all of which can build up and affect brain function. Now, in a previous edition of Grey Matters, I did an episode called Don't Let Fatigue and Lack of Stamina Ruin Your Life. And in that, I give some suggestions as to how to get a good night's sleep. And you know what? I don't follow it. I'm going to bed later and later. I'm taking my phone with me, and it's 12:30 before before I try to go to sleep. And by that time, I'm wide awake. One of the worst things you can do is take your phone with you. And I do nag about that. So check out that video because it's some good advice, and I'll leave a link in the description below. Number 2 is to focus on one task at a time. Don't try to multitask, especially with mentally taxing chores. Multitasking can lead to scrambled thinking and it drains our energy. In fact, a UK study has found that people who multitask using different forms of media at once, such as texting while watching TV, actually have a lower grey matter density than people who only use one device at a time. Grey matter is involved in information processing, hence this channel's name, of course. But there's another interesting fact. A study has found that the IQ of those who multitask drops to an average of that of an 8-year-old child. Now, you might want to hang on to that fact for the next argument with your spouse about getting household chores done. But isn't that interesting? Why should multitasking lower your IQ? Well, obviously the brain is working overtime. It's concentrating on different things at the same time. And if that is affecting your grey matter, your brain cells, and is having an adverse effect on it, then stick to one task at a time. All right, number 3, work on your memory. We do forget stuff as we get older, it's inevitable, but you can do things to boost your memory. Jigsaw puzzles, and they're proven to improve short-term memory because it reinforces the connections between brain cells. And there's an association between crossword puzzles and delayed onset of memory decline. And I regularly play word games such as Wordle and Wordscapes, and I do online crosswords as well. So whether they make a difference, well, you probably have to ask my wife about that, I suggest. But you do need to keep the brain active. I mean, anything, playing Scrabble with your friends, playing card games even, will, that thought process will help to keep those connections in your brain going. Number 4 is to feed your brain. Now, diet has a major impact on brain function. It can influence mood and memory. And eating some foods and avoiding others has been shown to slow brain aging by at least 7.5 years. For example, and you're going to love this one, dark chocolate can stimulate blood flow to the brain. And it encourages the growth of blood vessels and neurons in the areas of the brain that are involved in learning and memory. No more do you need an excuse to eat chocolate. Love it or hate it, but broccoli is another food that's particularly good for our brains because it's rich in vitamin K, and it's been linked with improved memory in older adults. So for us, for you, if you're of the age, broccoli is a good one. I'm not a great lover of it. I don't mind it with a cheese sauce and maybe with some cauliflower as well, but I'm not a great lover of eating broccoli on its own. But maybe I should be eating more, who knows. In contrast, science tells us that refined carbohydrates, sugary drinks, alcohol and trans fats can affect brain function by disrupting the communication between brain cells and or by causing inflammation. So maybe the moral there is eat more chocolate, drink less beer. But do look at your diet, do check out these facts online for yourself as well, and try to adjust your diet to give your brain a fighting chance. And because food intolerances can cause brain fog, you really should speak to your GP if you think a particular food or drink it might not be agreeing with you, and they might refer you to a specialist for an allergy test. Number 5 is to try new things. Now, you need to encourage the growth of new brain cells, and they connect to other cells to form learning pathways. So trying new things is one way to encourage this connection. Now, in my late 50s, I started writing. I now have 4 novels out there. I started about the same time I rediscovered my love of painting, and I now regularly produce work on commission. I started this channel during lockdown. Hello, my name's Pete and welcome to my channel Grey Matters. And like the writing, this has been a huge learning curve. But it all, I hope, is keeping that brain active. 4 years ago, I stepped right out of my comfort zone and became a local councillor, ending up as vice chairman and the deputy mayor. Now, I'm not suggesting you take on lots of new interests, but stepping out from that comfort zone will not only help to improve your brain power, but it could give you some well-deserved feelings of accomplishment. And another useful trick is to tackle your routine tasks in a different way. So try to mix things up. Anything you would normally do on autopilot, such as travelling to and from particular places, maybe going up to the high street or something, or going to visit relatives, take different routes. You can mix up your daily routines as well. If you're used to doing chores in a particular order, mix it up. Do things differently just to make your brain work that little bit more. Let's reinforce those connections that encourage learning and encourage brain cell growth. Not easy to say. Number 6 is to stay socially active. As we get older, our social circles naturally diminish, they shrink, and it makes socialising harder. Now, research has shown that there's a link between social activities and sharper thinking. And according to Age UK, meaningful interactions may provide a buffer against harmful factors of brain function such as stress. Restless.co.uk have actually got an item about how to make new friends and how to meet new people. So I'll leave a link to that down in the description. Give it a look. Number 7 is to take regular breaks. Now, I agree with this, but I would also add, try not to do your chores and your tasks at too fast a pace. This is my problem. I tend to go all out on a task, whether it's cutting the grass, digging the veg patch, doing some DIY. I go all out at it, and then by the time I do take a break, I'm exhausted. And that's ridiculous. My wife's always telling me, just slow down, take a break, have a cup of coffee, go back to it. And that's true, that's what you need to do. You've got to take proper breaks. It's much better to work at a slower pace and take regular breaks. But it can be counterintuitive. You know, why take a break when there's so much to do? It's simple, because overworking can cause stress, and it most definitely causes fatigue, and that can worsen brain fog. Right, so take regular and proper breaks. Number 8 is to incorporate regular exercise into your routines. Whoa, I hear you say exercise, and I've had these comments before when I've done things about exercise. People don't like exercise, but our minds and bodies are so tightly connected that the amount of physical activity that we do can affect brain function. There's plenty of research that shows that exercise boosts memory, creative thinking and problem solving. It's also able to actually clear brain fog, and it improves concentration. As I said, I've covered exercise for us old uns in a couple of editions of Grey Matters, and I'll leave the links below. But don't forget, the exercise doesn't have to be strenuous. There are many groups now providing easy workouts. They're doing walking football, walking netball, things like that, where you can get involved in a sport at a slow pace. There's seated yoga, which I've done a video about, seated exercise, which I'm going to do a video about. There's lots of things you can do that will improve your brain function with a bit of exercise. I'm now going to the gym for light workouts and treadmill work to try and get my step count up. All these things not only help your body, but they help your mind, especially if your body's feeling a lot better about things. So get some exercise. Number 9 is to avoid or manage stress and anxiety. I know, easier said than done, but adrenaline and cortisol are just 2 of the hormones that are released when we feel stressed, and they can overwhelm and exhaust the brain. It can be a vicious cycle too, because when brain fog increases, so does the stress, and so the cycle continues. Now, if you're caught in this loop, then you should explore ways of managing that stress and anxiety. One method is to try and avoid dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, and instead concentrating on the here and now. Again, sounds simple, but it actually isn't. If you're worried about what's coming up ahead, it's difficult to take your mind out of that. And I know someone who was quite ill not so long ago, and everyone is worrying about the future. And her attitude was, I can't worry about things that haven't happened. I need to worry, if I'm going to worry, about what's happening now. And that way, the stress was managed a lot better. Because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. And there is absolutely no point in worrying about it when by doing that you're actually missing out on what's happening in the present. So do try and not worry about the past or the future. Just concentrate on what's happening to you now. And finally, number 10 is about hydration. Hydration and fresh air are two crucial roles in brain health. And they're often overlooked. I mean, 20% of the air we breathe is used by the brain. 20%. And as for staying hydrated, well, our brains are 75% water. So even a small amount of dehydration can have a negative effect on brain function. The NHS recommends drinking 6 to 8 glasses of water a day. That's a huge requirement. But it's obviously what we need to do. And again, that's a problem for older folk because, you know, a lot of people are on diuretics for high blood pressure and other symptoms. And of course, diuretics make you pee. And if you're drinking a lot more water, you're going to pee a lot more. It'll help to keep your system flushed and fresh and healthy, but it might make your life a little bit difficult. But you certainly need to increase your fluid intake if you want to keep your brains healthy. Do your best on that. So there you go, 10 solid ways to try and reduce brain fog. And it's a real thing. And if it's affecting your quality of life, then you should definitely be speaking to your GP. And our friends over at Restless have got some great content about staying healthy. So why not pop over and have a look? I'll leave a link in the description. That's it for this edition of Grey Matters. Thank you for joining us. We've got more content coming up. We're going to do an update on the wildlife pond I built last year. We're getting some interesting animal activity there, which I've been catching on camera. We're going to be looking at an antique centre not far from where we are, which was once farm buildings and is now an antiques village. Brilliant. And we're going to be looking at many other things in the year to come. So do stay with us, do subscribe, do like the videos, and thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next time on Grey Matters. Bye for now.